Reapers 13. Trigger warnings. Self-harm ideation, graphic descriptions, description of harm against children.
Chapter 1. Cassandra. Darkness is not something you choose to live with. It's something that festers in the soul and waits for those moments when you're at your lowest, when all the light in your life is gone. Staring down the barrel of the black steel revolver, my hands trembled on the trigger. It would be so easy. The quiet stillness of the forest on that gray morning invited me to join it. It beckoned me to become one of the dead scattered around. Cultists, victims. Corpses always followed at my heel, and for all my good intentions, my battles always ended the same. Nothing I do makes a difference. Nothing I do matters. The soulless eyes of a little girl stared back at me, cold and afraid. A centipede-like carapace connecting to the torso of the girl coiled around the inside of a spilled cauldron. The only cure for her near transformation was a bullet to the head. Meaningless. Everything I achieved and everything I might achieve in life would be meaningless. A shot rang in the forest, sending the crows darting away. "Coward!" I yelled to myself. I fired 3 more shots into the corpse of the cultist leader. His body was long dead, rigor mortis already setting in. Still, it satisfied a deep wish to kill him again and again for what he had done. But it didn't change the fact that a little girl was dead. Crows encircled flight, ready for the feast. More arrived, adding to the flock until it became a murder. I watched them with their hungry eyes, deciding on which body to partake in first. Dread beckoned me stay alert to protect the corpse of that little girl. Like shooting stars or meteors falling to the ground, crows landed around the field. They picked at the bodies with reckless abandon. How hungry they seemed. But none touched the little girl. In that way, we were kin. Many neared, many watched from the treetops to the log I sat on, maintaining the same distance as myself. For all the horrid omens they are said to represent, it is often forgotten they knew death the same as intelligent life forms. Like me, they feasted and they mourned. They understood. "I'm sorry," I said, as though the little girl could hear me. "I'm sorry, I'm 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 so fucking sorry." Tears fell with reckless abandon. The thought kept teetering at the edge of my mind about how simple it would be to finally end that pain. But I lacked the will myself. Somehow, there was an even stronger desire, or fear, or duty, whatever it could be called, that kept my hand from finally pulling that trigger. I was forced to realize that I was trapped in a prison of my own making, and I couldn't find the key. I slumped down to the floor, leaning back against the log. What is the point of it all? I couldn't answer that question. It was impossible. There was no end to the world I helped create, and there was no simple answer to fix everything. "It's not your fault, Cass," came the gentle voice of a young man. He walked over to the girl's corpse, sporting a vest and a kind expression. His eyes turned to me. "You didn't do this." "Don't say that," I snapped at him. "I only needed a few more minutes. I wasted too much time gathering information. Worse, I was slow in my approach. I should have just rushed in. I've done this too many times to still be so slow. There was nothing you could do. I was the only one that could do anything." That quieted him. But by his expression, I don't think he was satisfied. I knew he was right. It didn't change the feeling inside, though. He stood up and sat down next to me, placing an arm around my shoulders. He was warm and comforting. I missed him so much. "You didn't make the decision to destroy her life," he told me. I knew he was right, but still, it was my fault. Everything wrong in the world was my fault. Think of all the people you saved. I let out a sardonic chuckle. Think of all the people I killed, I retorted. Think of all the people I damned. There is no amount of saving I can do to clear my ledger writ with an ocean of blood. She's right, said another man, dark-skinned, looking through the belongings of the cultist robes, crows undisturbed. Every life taken is a life that can't be restored. No life can be balanced out by the saving of another. It's pointless to try. It's not about balance, said the young man. It's about doing the right thing. The right thing, sneered the dark-skinned man. It's too late to start thinking about the right thing. Fuck off, I said weakly. My head sank into my arms, blocking my sight. When did you become this pathetic? Asked a woman's voice. I knew her well. She was a cold-blooded assassin that taught me everything I knew about killing. She never cared about individual life. I looked up from my stupor straight into her chestnut eyes. They evaluated me with every twitch of motion and found me lacking. I found her lacking in return, and we reached a stalemate. But admittedly, in that moment, she was right. I was being pathetic. At least, I felt pathetic. But I also couldn't reason a way to see a light beyond the clouds. The clouds can only be seen because there is light, said the young man, still keeping an arm around my shoulders. You have to hold on to hope. Hope? I chuckled. I have no power as I am. I have no true agency. I have no control. I can't change a damn thing anywhere. Even on the small scale, I am unimportant. My effort has no discernible worth. My pain has no discernible end. People all over are dying for a world so out of their control. What am I supposed to do? I nearly yelled. I can keep going around as some sort of mercenary taking jobs that clear out monsters or a vagrant saving person to person, but at the end of the day, I save as many people as I can't. Why do I? My words didn't have the heart to finish. Maybe the world would be better off without you, the woman told me in her cold, emotionless voice. Her eyes were daggers ready to strike. My gut wound was aching. Blood was still slowly dripping. I nearly forgot about it. I've suffered so many wounds that I couldn't take them seriously anymore. My body was strong enough to handle it regardless, but this one was really taking a toll. Maybe this will be the wound to end me, I said. You know that's not enough to kill what we are, she told me. To kill us, heart or head, else we have a good chance of pulling through. Heart or head. He could have gotten a lucky shot. The council will be more than pleased to hear of my passing. The woman kneeled before me, inspecting my body. Where did they shoot you? She asked me. It was a bolt of lightning, actually. I was careless. Where? She pressed. I slowly moved my hand from my gut to show the open wound. Without the pressure, I felt the blood rush and stain my clothing. The woman showed no expression. She put her hand to my wound. It hurts? She asked. A little, I said. She nodded. Without mercy, she plunged her fingers deep into the wound. I flinched at the burning rush of pain flowing through my body, flaring up with every wriggle and twitch of her finger. That's enough, the young man yelled. Does it hurt now? She asked me. Yes, I grunted. Do you want me to stop? Yes, the young man yelled. I'm asking Cassandra. She needs to tell me when to stop. I was silent. She kept pressing. You like this pain because you think you deserve it. This pain is too good for what you deserve. How many people, innocent people, begged for their lives staring down that same barrel? How many of your victims pled for mercy or reminded you of their children? You killed them all the same. You think your death will atone for all of your wrongdoing? You are not a victim. You are a monster, a reaper. You are a loaded gun looking for its next target. A long life of suffering is the penance you deserve. The only places of respite left for you lie within the confines of your own memories, and even in those 100 years of moments, good days are few and far between. She pulled her hand from my gut and stepped back. You don't need to listen to her, Cass, the young man said. He lifted my arm and placed it back on my wound. You've always had a good heart. For that you were used. That's not your fault. The world being the way it is also is not your fault. Evil people cast large shadows that ruin everything they touch. You're free from that shadow. And the moment you are freed, you've helped people. That counts for something. Mard watches us all from his place above, I said. Mard judges us all. Mard never forgets. The church is gone, the woman said. It was all bullshit anyway. We all end up in the dirt no matter what path we take. The high road, the low road, or any other all takes us to the cold, hard dirt where we die alone. We only pretend there's sights to see and people to meet along the way. If you need to put some sort of balance to the universe for your own sanity, then keep your focus. She pointed a gun down at the fallen cultist leader. Do you remember how to keep your focus? Cut out your hearts, I said. I was barely 14 when she told me that, training me on all the various guns and how to properly aim. Her training kept me alive, time and time again. The heart has no place on the battlefield. Know your side, know your enemy, finish the job, deal with the consequences later. Can you remember all that? She doesn't need to hear this, the young man interjected. Well, she asked me. The young man prepared a response, but the woman fired her gun at his feet. Well, she asked again. I can remember that, I muttered. Good. She kneeled down to the cultist leader and poked at his dead body, mimicking the crows. This here is your enemy. This place is your battlefield. It follows you wherever you go. The council broke the world using you as one of their favorite pawns. Since you need purpose, they are your enemy. You can't die until they die. You can't atone until they pay a price. You're wasting all your time staunching wounds of the world without killing the root cause. I know, I said. You're right. How many more little girls need to die before you finally strike at the heart? It's not so easy. Does it matter? She looked to the man holding me in his arms and sneered. His words poison you. He speaks of helping people on an individual scale, but that will never solve the problem brought about by those too high to see. You know what to do. These men did this for a reason. Go back to their source. Find out which cult they belong to, which master they served. Follow them to the top and kill whatever you find. These bodies hold the key you so desperately search for. Resolve was finding its way to me. She was right. She was so right. At that moment, though, none of that mattered. I knew what I was going to do. I was going to sit in the stillness of that gray morning for a good while, and when my body finally decided to move again, I would learn what I could and find their leader. Nothing ever changed, not even in 100 years of life, but hope was always waiting just beyond the gray of the clouds. Cassandra, no matter what, I love you, said the young man. A tear dripped from my eye. I love you too, I said. In one instance, I blinked. In the next instance, they were all gone. I was alone again with just my mind and my thoughts. I suppose, though, that I was always alone. So I sat there in the stillness of that gray morning and waited for my body to decide to move again. Then something caught my eye. A note edged from the robe pocket of the leader. I stood up from my stump and took the note in hand. Ellsbury Hollow, Wednesday, 12 o'clock, it read. Bring the creature. The creature? I sneered. While I couldn't save the little girl, there was still business to be dealt with. I would remove the trash that indiscriminately kills little girls from the world. I needed to return to the town. But first, my business wasn't finished. The girl needed to be buried, and there was no one else around. I found a soft enough plot of land that the makeshift tools of the cultists could come in handy. Then I started digging. With my enhanced strength and the soft earth, at a certain point my hands were more than enough. At that moment, I separated the carapace from the girl's torso and picked her up. She was so light in my arms. I briefly considered allowing her parents to view her one last time, but no parent should see their child ripped apart and face amidst transfiguration. One eye became several in a pure black orb, antennae were emerging from her skull, and there was a bullet hole on the side of her head that ended her life. But beyond that, I could still see the look of innocence shining on her face, and if I were to place her hair just right, the girl might have been sleeping. I'm sorry, I whispered to her, before placing her in the makeshift grave. The wind howled. Gently, I covered the hole in dirt. Crows gathered around to watch. At least there were witnesses to her passing. There were no humans, but there were sympathetic eyes. Normally at a funeral, there were words spoken of some sort to commemorate the time of the deceased and discuss their impact on the planet and those around them. But we didn't know the girl. We were just the only ones around. I took a deep breath. It was time. I needed to move on from that place. What remained of the cultist bodies after the crows would be left to the pack of hyenas that wandered around from place to place, picking at the scraps of death. My presence warded them off, but once I grabbed my belongings, that would no longer be an issue. I returned to town to deliver the bad news to the little girl's parents. Cackleblight Village came into view 20 minutes later. The grim of morning faded to clear skies, brightening the orange road. I spotted the dome-shaped building behind the wall of clay surrounding the perimeter. Lampposts bordered the entrance, guarded by 2 brown-skinned soldiers with rifles in hand. The soldiers let me pass through without incident. Their job was meant to protect against creatures, not creature-like people. What came next I feared more than any beast. That look of grief shone clear and strong, able to penetrate to the deepest recesses of my soul. It was not a look I neither welcomed nor could protect myself from. All the same, I visited the home of doctors Asha and Gadisa. Asha opened the door, her eyes red from constant tears. They welled once more when they spotted me standing by myself. The woman retreated within the home without a word. It was Gadisa that welcomed me inside to a drink. "What happened?" he asked. "Where is our little girl?" His face writhed in pain and anguish. I wanted to look away, but the intensity of the gaze kept me locked to him. I sucked in a deep breath. I've delivered bad news to many a person, and yet it never got any easier. "They turned her into something else," I said. "I'm sorry." Asha's eyes became 2 full moons, gaze a fixed expression of disbelief. Gadisa seemed to be struggling with the news as well. Worms formed and collapsed on his lips with every breath. "The cultists," he finally managed to say, anger barely held back. "Are they dead?" It was the most natural of questions. Anger always inspired a desire for vindication or justice. I felt the same way. "I killed them all," I replied. I withheld the knowledge of a leader somewhere out there. Those grieving parents needed whatever comforts could be afforded to them. "But our daughter," Asha murmured between sobs. "We can't even bury the body." "Actually," I managed to say, "that's not quite true. There's a grave in the forest. Go right at the first fork and enter into the nearby clearing. You'll find where I buried her." "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for your decency." "Yes," Gadisa agreed. "Thank you. I'm glad you don't live up to the legends." "Legends?" I wanted to press further, but it wasn't the right time. They were in tears, barely keeping themselves together. They needed to be alone. My ride was waiting for me at the inn. With the news delivered, I stood up, finished my drink, and bid them farewell. "I'm sorry for your loss," I said, turning for the door. "Wait," Gadisa said. "Your payment is with the mayor." I shook my head. "Keep it." There was gratitude in his eyes, and a bit of surprise as he nodded. "Money is for a job well done. That's the last thing I would call what I did." In the corner of my eye, I spotted a squat, 4-legged creature with dozens of eyes surrounding one large central eye, clinging to the ceiling. It hid in the shadows. Arug, they were called, by the few capable of seeing them. While being ugly as sin, they were mostly harmless creatures invisible to the average human. I never understood their purpose, but as long as they remained docile, I ignored them. So many strange creatures came from the opening of the gates that it was best not to try and understand them all, lest one wishes to become prone to madness. But in that moment, I wondered what it would be like to view this strange world from their eyes. So many emotions powered the room like the engine of a train, and all I could see were two strange creatures grappling each other. To be devoid of any emotion, as people expected of me, would be a blessing. I took one last look at the couple and left them to grieve in peace. My next job would be to finish off the cultists. Ellsbury Hollow lay on the coast only 3 days away by carriage. Perhaps the man I hired to take me to the village might be up for an extended ride. I left him at the nearest inn, Fupakale. The carriage and the oxen lay at the front chained to a post. The bottom level of the inn doubled as a tavern. The Yorn influence shone clear as day by the open space for a bar and a stage for singers in the corner. A band played smooth jazz on unconventional instruments, entertaining a small handful of customers that morning. Even in such a remote village, the grasp of Councilman Godfrey's imperialism could not be avoided. Such was the way of things, where culture and individuality made way for standardization and efficiency. I was about to head up to the second level when I glimpsed a pale-skinned man sitting at one of the tables with a drink in his hand. The only pale-skinned person in the bar aside from myself. He was so entranced by musicians at the breakfast that he didn't even notice my approach. "Saxon," I said, "isn't it a little early to be drinking?" He waved a hand without looking to shush me. "I'll take my refill in a moment." "Saxon," I repeated, with a little more force. The man whipped around, ready to yell a flurry of insults, but instantly melted away when he caught sight of me. "It's time we left here." "Cassandra," he said, surprised. "What a shock." "Did you think I would die to a few cultists? Please, Saxon, have some faith in me." He gestured to a nearby seat. "Take a look at this performance." I sighed and sat beside him, leaning my scythe against the table. Saxon pointed to a man sitting on a stool playing a stringed instrument. "Have you ever seen the kora used for jazz? Alkebulian musical variation is incredible. It should be its own genre of music." "They don't have this in the city?" I asked. Saxon shook his head. "They have something similar, but not with this beat." He took another swig of his deep amber liquid. "Mard's ghost! You smell like stale dung from a not-too-healthy cow's ass. There's a water pump out back if you need to clean up." "There's a shower in the room," I retorted. "Anyway, we need to leave. I have business in Ellsbury Hollow in 3 days' time. I'll pay you for the extra distance." He turned to face me, his glass hanging in the air for a refill. "You know the problem with you, lady?" He didn't wait for a response. "The problem is you're too impatient. Rushing from one place to the next slaying monsters is no way for someone like yourself to make it anywhere in this world. You should be out looking for a rich husband." "I do just fine," I hissed. Saxon snorted. A waitress came by and refilled his drink. He took a swig and kept on talking. "I hear you've got quite the reputation. You somehow convinced these people you're one of those things from the bedtime stories I knew as a kid. Reapers, they were called." "You don't believe in them?" "Maybe I do, maybe I don't," he said, taking another swig. "But think about it for a moment, and I think the truth is obvious. Which seems more plausible? 13 inhuman freaks somehow slaughtered Mard, all-powerful God above, and ushered us into this age of madness? Bullshit. Or that the church was evil from the start, and they summoned the monsters. Things didn't go as planned, causing them to be sacrificed in the process, and leaving behind this shitstorm." He had his theories. Neither were true, of course, but they were entertaining to hear. I leaned back in my seat, slightly amused by his outlook. Saxon had been outspoken the entire trip. There was never a dull moment with him around. "One more song, Saxon, then I want to leave. I'll pay you your fair share in crons." Yeah, I know you're good for it." He shook his head. He absorbed the music for another minute, bobbing to the beat. "You didn't answer my question, by the way," he finally said. "Which seems more plausible?" "Humans can't kill a god," I answered, "no matter how much magic may have twisted their form. But in this world, I don't think questioning possibilities makes much sense." "Question it all," he said. Most people only know how to peddle in lies and death. That's why I moved out to these boonies of a continent, safe for the most part from Councilman Claudius's freaky-ass puppets. The song ended. Time's up, I told him. Can we be on our way? Sure, just let me pay my tab. Saxon stood up and drifted to the counter. After I grabbed my luggage from the room, I found Saxon still at the counter, paying the innkeeper. Afterwards, he gestured for us to leave. Outside, the carriage waited. We jumped on. If you want me to take you to Ellsbury Hollow, it's going to cost you some crowns. I reached into my duster pocket and pulled out a gold coin. Will this do? His eyes glimmered. The man was so greedy. It made it easy to understand him. He bit the coin, licking his lips once satisfied. Old money, eh? No one really used gold currency anymore, but its value was still greater than any crowns. He kicked his oxen into motion. The ride was quiet for a time. Time enough to think and ponder about what lay next after killing the cultist leader. I already devoted decades to protecting the continent, but nothing ever changed. There had to be an end to it all. But the way ahead looked darker than a starless night in the middle of a storm. Show me your arm, said Saxon. The voice snapped me back to reality. My arm? I asked. I heard from the innkeeper that you had a brand. I want to see it for myself. I obliged, holding out my right arm and rolling back the sleeves of my duster and shirt. Aside from a deep scar from the bite of an animal, there was also a tattoo. The tattoo covered half my forearm, depicting a human skull with a crow's head attached to the back. Below the skull were 2 crossed crow feathers. Are you satisfied? I asked him. He snickered. You are a clever one, aren't you? Is that how you stay in business? Use myth to create a reputation around yourself? Is it so unbelievable that I could be one of those creatures? He laughed. You? Look, Cass. You may walk the walk and carry your frightening assortment of weaponry, but you're too young for starters. 100 years too young. Not to mention that you look far too pretty to be inhuman. One Reaper was known to be the most beautiful flower in all of Yora. She was one of the greatest ballerinas of her generation. He waved a hand dismissively. I'll believe it when I see it. Saxon carried on for a time without a word. Then he shook his head. Look, I know the game. I was born into this crazy world myself with just my hooker of a mother, rest her soul, to keep me safe. We do what we need in order to survive. Travel taught me how to navigate the landscape and evade the gateways. You learned how to fight. We're no different, you and me, and that's why I respect you. But don't try and bullshit me. Very well. I leaned back in my seat and lowered my hat to cover my eyes. Saxon was young, still barely 30. I understood keeping the world simple and understandable. If he ever opened his mind to the full possibilities of his existence, the world he found himself in might be enough to break it. He was lucky in a way. If only I could forget.